Welcome.
Thanks, Chip. Dan, thanks for being here. We really appreciate our time. Dan, I know we are a little bit
Nice to be
over.
on.
Yep, thanks, Chip. So I'll dive right into it.
Sure.
Let's start with introductions. You play a very critical role as you manage the partner ecosystem at Microsoft. So talk to us a little bit about yourself, about your role at Microsoft, and then we will go into some of the Q&A.
Yeah, will do. Thanks, Puneet, and thanks everybody for taking the time to join. I know strapping yourself into your chair for 9 hours a day is an arduous task these days, and especially sitting on these live calls, watching a bunch of people you don't know talk about topics you're interested in. The amount of patience it takes to stay engaged and to light up these chat windows the way you have been is phenomenal. So thanks for being with us, and hopefully you're able to get something out of the session. Thank you, Puneet. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Rippey. I'm the director of the programs and experiences team at Microsoft. So in a very, very short-winded way of saying, I'm accountable for partner.microsoft.com, both the experience that our partners touch digitally when they come through our engines, and also for the programs and offers that we make available for partners that choose to engage and transact in our ecosystem.
Great. And then personally, just a little bit before you came to Microsoft, so we
Yeah.
will get to know you better.
That's great. Yeah, David's in good company. So I'm not a submariner, but I am an Army veteran. I've been working for the United States Army for about 14 years. I'm actually still serving as a reservist. Getting pretty close to lieutenant colonel for those that have been around the military side, and looking forward to finishing the last back half of my career in the military and closing that chapter. It's been a long and very, very rewarding journey. And then also been with Microsoft for about 13 years. I was able to transition when I first entered the military to go into a reserve program. Microsoft gave me a pretty awesome opportunity to come on board. And so I've been doing both in tandem, spent some time in the Middle East and spent a lot of time here in Washington State, and just traverse back and forth between those two parts of my life.
David and Dan, thanks for your service. We really appreciate it. So let's get into some of the business questions. So Dan, you play a very critical role. You're working with partners, and for Microsoft, which has been a partner-led organization, partners do align very closely as you look to achieve Microsoft strategic goals. So what do you think is the role of partners at Microsoft, and how important are partners?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's funny. Like, I get to see the transcriptions that come from all of our big industry events, and so because I ran the Microsoft partner site for the Inspire Partner Conference, what a lot of you know is the Worldwide Partner Conference. And if you look at the quote from our CEO that is said most, it's very simple. It's Microsoft has always been a partner-led company, and Microsoft will always be a partner-led company. And we kind of, in the back room, like when we're in the green room watching the everything unfold on stage, we all kind of chuckle at that, because I think Satya says that not only to as a signal to the ecosystem that it is really the strength that our partners bring to the table that make us who we are. But I think it's also a very clear reminder to our company's 140,000 employees every time our boss takes the stage to never forget that line, and never forget that is in the DNA of who we are as a corporation and who we service in the channels and programmatic offerings that we make available. So it's always a good kind of, like, I know sometimes when you're in an expo hall with 50,000 people, or at least pre-COVID when we all did that, you tend to kind of gloss over big bold statements like that because they're said so frequently. And I can tell you, as an employee with a Microsoft badge in his wallet, that one always gets my attention. It literally stops me in my tracks on whatever I'm doing, and I look at the CEO and say, "That's a good reminder. Thanks, boss. We appreciate it."
So as you think about this whole partner ecosystem, which is obviously critically important, and I think you're alluding to Satya's book where he said that it's a partner-led company. From what my understanding is, there's like 300,000 partners that you work with in some way, shape, or form. As you think about these partners, I believe there are two questions that arise. One is the business model that you deliver with these partners. It seems like business models have evolved, as David was talking and Amit was talking in his keynote, going from reselling activities to now to co-selling activities. What do you see as a business model that you have developed at Microsoft and that you are helping enable? And then from that business model, we come to tools and platforms that you have developed in-house, as well as how you're working with WorkSpan, and as you execute some of that business model and strategic aspects.
That's a great question. I'll repeat it. I know I'm watching the links come through chat that the audio was a little bit garbled. It was on my side as well, but I've got we rehearsed this, so I actually know what the question is already. So for the audience, the question was, what challenges do we face in Microsoft's partner ecosystem from a business model perspective and also from a platform perspective? And I think it's no like unknown secret that Microsoft likes to tout big numbers about the size of its partner ecosystem. And our philosophy is we never turn a partner organization away, right? We have partners that have a depth of expertise with us. We have partners that have a very shallow level of engagement with us. But Microsoft's perspective is to embrace any organization that comes to our front door, knocks on the door and says, I'd like to partner with you. Our answer is, okay, let's see how we can figure that out. Because of that, that's a bit of a blessing and a curse, right? When it lets you tout a big number, right? It lets you tout numbers in the hundreds of thousands of organizations and literally millions of unique users that transact across our ecosystem. The really difficult thing to do from a business model perspective is to figure out how to engage with all of them in a really personalized and appropriate way, because the breadth of the ecosystem is so large, you never really know where to put your chips. And so you spend an inordinate amount of time trying to slice through your channel and try to figure out, okay, for specific targeted impact that we want to go after, what are the right partners to work with? And you're always just kind of like guessing and looking at the data and analyzing, experimenting, re-experimenting, and constantly trying to come to a conclusion on, for a given programmatic offering or a market opportunity, what is the right list of partners that we should be engaging with on that? And as soon as you open something up to the public in an organization that, or a channel that has 350,000 partners, you're immediately overwhelmed by the responsive feedback. So when you do something great, it makes it difficult because partners there's so many partners who are surfacing demand on top of that offering. It's hard to reach the right ones. And when you do something that's not so great, you get the feedback immediately. Partners are, when 350,000 organizations sing in unison, it is a very, very loud voice. So the business model challenges are trying to figure out, how do we slice the ecosystem to the things that matter most to the companies that come to our front door to partner with us. From a platform and tools perspective, I can tell you, having grown up in this ecosystem at the company for a decade and a half, the amount of things you end up with begins to consume you. And that's not just program. Like if you think about, Microsoft created tools for partner membership. We created tools for partner selling and co-selling. We created tools to help partners bring their offers into our marketplaces, AppSource and Azure Marketplace. We created tools for giving partners and paying out incentives, tools for enabling partners to track their performance, tools for partners to go take learning and training, tools for partners to access their digital benefits. When we moved from, I came in at the tail end of the ecosystem where we still shipped big 3-ring binders of CD-ROM and DVD-ROMs to partners for the benefits they ordered. If anybody can kind of like remember what it was like to get a 3-ring binder of discs from MSDN shipped to your house. And so every tool that we had a finite purpose and had a very good reason why it was created. But after a decade and a half of that, you realize that what you do to new organizations that are cloud first coming to work with us for the first time is we're handing them novels worth of documentation to try to understand how to transact and traverse across our ecosystem. And for legacy partners who kind of grew up with that, they get it, right? They get the complexity. Their businesses are probably as big and complex as ours. But for these smaller, more nimble, cloud-born organizations, that's not good enough. Like they need something more agile. They expect it immediately. They don't want a user guide. They're not going to take months to align their business programmatic structure and their internal IT functions against Microsoft's. They're not going to have a massive channel alliance team that is getting deeply steeped in all these transactional tools and capabilities Microsoft makes available. And so they expect everything in one place. And that's really what brought us to the start of Partner Center, to say, you know what, enough is enough. We can't create a new tool or a new technology platform every time we have a new business motion that we need to light up. We need to just centralize all this in one place. And most of the big players are doing this now. We just had a lot of baggage because we've been around the block for a while on this, and everybody knows that an engineer's worst nightmare is system migrations, right? It's not a job anybody wants, but it is a job that needs to get done. And so we're finally coming to the tail end of that. And the result of it that we're actually pretty proud of is Partner Center.
Yeah. So Dan, can you hear me okay, by the way? Is it better now?
Yep,
okay.
Loud and clear.
You talked about the spectrum of activities that you're doing in terms of the partnering motion. And then you talked about this phenomenal tool, Partner Center. I think Microsoft is far ahead of some of its peers as you think about developing a tool set for partners to work with you. So Partner Center has been front and center, and you spend an enormous amount of time and resources developing that tool set so that partners can work with you. As you think about that comprehensive tool which sits in the middle of partners, about WorkSpan, how do the two tools or two platforms complement each other? What do you think are the dynamics between the two platforms as partners look to collaborate with you?
Yep. Great question, Puneet. I'll repeat that one again. I'm also seeing some comments come through the chat that the audio was a little low on that one as well. So the question Puneet asked was, Partner Center has been considered a fairly big success by most of our ecosystem that's actively engaging on it. And so specifically with WorkSpan, what is the role of its integration and complementary offering with Partner Center? So to be really specific on this one, Partner Center is designed to be, it's kind of single use, right? So a partner logs in and they see a record of transactional capabilities that they have, whether they're trying to enroll into a new competency or advanced specialization, whether they're trying to deploy an offer into one of Microsoft's marketplaces, whether they're managing an incentive pipeline or a sales pipeline. Partner Center is built for the partner to come in and all of the employees of that organization can set up different personas and different role-based access control mechanisms to manage certain levers of that partnership. It's not designed to be a place for collaborative work to happen. It's not designed to be a place where a Microsoft employee and a partner employee can co-create on an engagement or deal. It's not designed to be a place where a partner and another partner, like maybe an independent software vendor and a system integrator, can come together and say, hey, we have a complementary service that attaches to a complementary offering. Let's start thinking about how we can build new engagements against this and how we can position these engagements with Microsoft for additional uptick in sales adoption. And that is a big restriction. It's, I would say number one, for Microsoft to do that jades the lens a little bit, because partners give us a lot of feedback and they say, well, sometimes we want Microsoft's involvement. And when we want that, we'll tell you, we'll specifically ask for help from an account executive who can bring us into a discussion with a customer and help us close this book of business together. But many times we actually just want Microsoft to get out of the way. Just give us a platform to collaborate and converse with each other. And then we'll do the rest, right? I think any good SI that has strategic relationships built with a number of ISVs, they typically don't need, post development stage, they probably don't need Microsoft involved in a lot of their pre-sales and sales conversations. They do want to do deal registration because they want to get credit for the win, and they want Microsoft to be aware of how much business they're collectively driving to us so that we acknowledge the strength of that relationship and give that as benefits and incentives back to them. But they typically don't need Microsoft involved in that. And so when it came to WorkSpan, we began a journey about a year and a half ago that said, what if we had neutral ground, right? What if we had a neutral territory where a partner and Microsoft, or a partner and another partner, and then potentially a partner and another partner and Microsoft can come together to ideate, collaborate, and co-create? Does it make sense for an independent third party to host something like that? And that's where the WorkSpan offering came in. And we said, you know what, if we're going to do this right, we're going to fully integrate this technology stack with Partner Center so that we can flow engagement data and deal data into and out of both ecosystems, because we want to bring new engagement opportunities into WorkSpan, let that partner start to pull in other partners they may be collaborating with on that, bring those deals to a point of maturity and conversion, and then flow them back into Partner Center so they can get credit for the work they've done. And WorkSpan's done a fantastic job on that integration layer. Our team basically did the work to make a set of APIs available, and then WorkSpan did the heavy lift to make sure that the whole thing actually functions. And I'm really proud of the offering that Amit was able to announce at the start of the call today.
Yeah, we are very excited about the partnership. And I think the strength of the partnership is, you and I have talked about it. As you think about a future state, you talked about three aspects: ideate, collaborate, and co-create. When you think about ideate, collaborate, and co-create, you need trust. You need trust between your partners. And as we think about a future state, you're saying that it's not about just a phenomenal tool, but it's also about building trust.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about that trust, how WorkSpan is able to inspire that trust? Because you can do all sorts of platforming, you can do all sorts of tools. But one of the unique things that we have learned from our partners is we don't have a dog in the race. Like, we are that neutral platform. So talk about that a little bit as you're working with your partners, as you go to your partners, these 350,000 community, and when WorkSpan sits in the middle, how does that inspire confidence? How does that inspire trust between partners?
Yeah, that's funny. Like I actually like to use a physical analogy to that one. So if you go to a conference or an industry event of either entrepreneurs or small business owners, everybody immediately congregates towards the middle of the room and starts having discussions, right? Because you go into that discussion with the air of that vulnerability is okay, because you need to walk out of that room with new relationships. And that really is the beginning of the foundation of trust. Is like the foundation of trust starts with vulnerability, and then it ends with, kind of with a durable relationship of mutual shared interest that can be developed and fostered over time. When you go to an event of like corporate enterprise partners, everybody stands in their booth and waits for people to come to them. And I think that, like, it's such a simple thing, but it's a big difference in the hat you need to assume. It doesn't matter the size or tenure or strength of your business. I think it all helps us to put that entrepreneur hat back on and make ourselves vulnerable to opening up for new relationships and enabling trust to come in. And I think that's a really hard thing to do, especially when you're an industry leader in a specific technology area, because you know it, right? You've worked hard to get where you are, and you're generally waiting for others to come to you. But the most successes we've seen on engagements that happen in the P2P space are where everybody kind of puts their startup hat back on or their entrepreneur hat back on and says, there's probably somebody else out there who has shared interest in what I'm working on. And we can take this like in the case I described before, we can take a complementary service offering and a complementary piece of intellectual property, and we can bring that app and service together to an offering that actually makes a lot more sense when we take it to market together. Microsoft, I think it's not that Microsoft couldn't have written the technology to do it. I think that our name doesn't need to be branded on it for this conversation to happen effectively. And I think when we do that, it starts to create an underlying tone of the conversation that Microsoft is pursuing an agenda in that discussion. Mm-hmm. And with the WorkSpan integration, we decided on the early stage, like, that is just simply not true. We just, if a partner needs to request assistance or collaborative resources from Microsoft, they're by all means empowered to do that. But we really kind of just want to wait quietly in the background until we're called upon to come in and help. Because a lot of cases you don't need our help, and injecting ourselves in the conversation sometimes adds more complexity than it's worth.
I think that's a great analogy, and I think that's what we are learning from our partners as well. So I'll end the discussion there. I'll ask another question, which is, given your extensive experience as you have worked with all these partners, what are some of the key takeaways as you think about these participants from many large companies and many small companies for that matter coming into the ecosystem summit? Talk to us a little bit about what you would do, words of wisdom, key takeaways before we open it up for questions.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll repeat that one for the audience because I know the audio was also a little bit low on that. So thinking about the future state of our platforms and WorkSpan, where do we think this is going to go? I'll say that, like, as a technologist, the hardest thing the hardest mechanism we have that really holds us back is trying to figure out how to make partner-to-partner connections in the ecosystem. I kind of look at it like the difference between like Match.com and speed dating, right? If you decrease the size of the pool for your potential dates small enough, you'll probably find somebody that you can connect with. They may not be a perfect match, but if there's only 10 people in the room and your intent is to walk out connected with one of them, you'll find a way. Right. Versus, Match, when you can look algorithmically at a pool of hundreds of thousands or millions of candidates, and you can start to systematically make those connections between kind of two complementary parties in a discussion where there's mutual shared opportunity. There's so much more power in just increasing the size of the pool. So I think that's Microsoft brings the size of the pool to the table, right? That's Microsoft can say, look, we have 350,000 partner organizations in this ecosystem. Almost every single one of them needs something from another technology partner. Some of them have found it and many of them haven't. And so what Microsoft is kind of actively avoiding is the matching between partners, because that's really not what we should be doing. We shouldn't be saying, hey, partner A, you should be working with partner on B on these things because we've matched you together. That's actually the magic that we're looking for WorkSpan to start to bring to the table. And so the platform, it is all there in the platform today, of the ability to connect, the ability to search and discover for other partners. I think where this goes in the future is intelligent matching algorithms that help bring that to partners, so they don't have to go speed date, right? They just kind of sit and they watch their match inbox, and they wait for new engagement requests that have been intelligently connected by algorithms that can figure out when complementary services or needs are a pair.
So I think that's phenomenal, because what you're saying is the systems then evolve just from a platform for collaboration to a system of insights, because that's where That's what actually it becomes way more insightful. It actually becomes way more interesting. And we are bringing in the data from that collaboration piece to actually make it actionable.
Yep.
So Chip, I'll turn it back to you. If you have questions coming from the audience, let's take those questions. Apologies for the poor audio quality on my end, but hopefully audience could still get value because Dan was phenomenal as we navigated through some technical challenges.
Yeah, glad we figured that out. It came back and then it was a little bit spotty. So, but yeah, I think it all worked really well. So, Dan, great session, and I don't see a question yet, but I see a lot of really great comments. So, really,
Yeah.
I think it's just been. In fact, somebody said, I think the analogy of Match.com is a really
Memorable,
good
that's
one.
for sure. Yeah, I'll close with Puneet asked me when we were going through beforehand on like any words of wisdom, and I'll say this. I'll say there's kind of transitioning it back to David's background. There's two ways to steer a ship, right? You can steer a ship from the bow, or you can steer a ship from the stern. And in some areas, Microsoft tries to steer the ship from the bow, right? Where in certain instances, we need to signal to our partner ecosystem, hey, we're changing direction and this is where we need you to go, follow us. What we found much, much more effective is when we can set strategic targets with our partners and let them steer the ship from the stern, because that is the strength of what 350,000 partnered organizations bring to the table when they start to move the massive tonnage that they hold on their shoulders is unbelievable. And so like when we activate our BizApps ecosystem, or we activate our modern work ecosystem, or our Azure ecosystem, and we can show new opportunities where Microsoft has a gap in terms of partner capacity against a specific solution area or sales play, the speed that partners move to fill that gap and the ability for partners to connect with other partners and find technology solutions that they can bring to market with Microsoft and enable our sales team to sell on their behalf. And in some cases, just enable co-sell motions that happen entirely without Microsoft involved. It is unbelievable how much tonnage that ecosystem can move. And so that, like, I think if you own a channel in your organization, or you're accountable for a channel in your organization, like, don't ever forget that there are times where the ship needs to be steered from the stern, right? Part of like Microsoft's move from on-premise to Azure was one of those examples in 2008, 2009. Nobody really knew what that meant yet, but we just needed to move the ecosystem. But those opportunities are few and far in between, and make sure you're using your channel as a platform. It's not an offering. It's not a product. It is a platform for your best collaborative joint partnered organizations to be successful. And however you can service them, do whatever it takes.
Awesome.
Excellent. Actually, I just see another comment coming in from Nicole Roscoe, who says the concept of online marketplace and P2P connections and solution creation seems to be where we're all heading. So I think it's very timely, and I'm getting a lot of really, really great comments on your session, Dan. So this has been terrific.